Really, bro? In case you've been living under a rock, Donald Trump recently bested Hillary Clinton in the 2016 election and will be the next president of the United States. But rather than learn from their mistakes, the left is already campaigning for Donald Trump's re-election in 2020. The professional protesters have yet again hit the streets because the authoritarian that they hated the most will now be ruling over them. And because this upsets them, they're protesting and blocking off traffic and making it very inconvenient for those that are trying to reach their destination. The social justice warriors are, of course, protesting and holding signs that say things such as, "This pussy grabs back." And of course, they're standing side by side with communists and being all ridiculous as if this is going to be what gains them support for their cause. Nah, bro, this is diametrically opposed to your cause. But in order to understand this, you have to first understand how we got to this point. Donald Trump is not a politician. One can argue he is the biggest troll to have ever existed. He ran a completely unconventional campaign. Established Republicans hated him throughout the entire Republican nomination process. And the Democrats, well, they made it seem as if he was the next coming of Satan. The Democrats, of course, elected the most corrupt, warmongering individual they could have in Hillary Clinton, who is nothing more than a progressive neocon. And as WikiLeaks revealed, the Democratic Party is pretty damn corrupt, and they have the media in their pocket. And leftists tried to play every trick in the book to make it seem as if Trump was just this evil individual, like he was going to mandate that women be forced in the kitchen, that all Hispanic and people of Latino descent were going to be deported to Mexico and South America, as if all blacks were going to go back to being slaves, as if gays were going to be tossed off the roof in execution. Kind of like the practices of Hillary Clinton's donors. But all those plans backfired because it's only so many times that campuses can erupt because folks need their little safe spaces. It's only so many times that you can claim that people are racist simply because they disagree with you. It's only so many times you can get out there protesting and destroying people's private property. It's only so many times that you can block off the streets before people get sick of your shit. And because of Donald Trump's trolling demeanor, this all worked to his benefit. And many people ended up supporting him because he seemed to be an outsider, and others thought that you and your regressive politics were the biggest threat. So guys that didn't even like the dude ended up supporting him. That along in the fact that Hillary Clinton sucked. So you're marching in protest and blaming everything from the Electoral College to white supremacists to third-party voters. Anything, of course, to take the blame off yourselves. You want to blame white supremacists, but so far, according to the exit polls in comparison to the 2012 election, Trump, as a Republican, had an uptick in support from blacks, Asians, Latinos, and Hispanics. He lost support from whites, so that narrative is completely silly. To be honest, he's the most progressive Republican presidential nominee, and he's held up the LGBT flag and has said that he wants to protect them.
I will do everything in my power to protect our LGBTQ citizens from the violence and oppression of a hateful foreign ideology. Believe me. And I have to say, as a Republican, it is so nice to hear you cheering for what I just said. Thank you.
He's even acknowledging the fact that Republicans are now clapping for this effort because everybody knows they haven't quite been the most tolerant of gays. Hell, on the things I think he's bad on, progressives tend to agree. He wants to raise the minimum wage, he wants mandated maternity leave, and he wants the government being involved in the healthcare industry. I'm a libertarian and an anarcho-capitalist. There's 6 million things that Donald Trump is absolutely anti-liberty on in terms of his policy. but I don't have to say that he's racist in order to criticize him on these anti-liberty points. Now, to be fair, I guess you were right when you did suggest that Trump would seemingly bring about chaos with his presidency. You just didn't say that it was going to be from you guys. You're being sour and all of this talk about how Trump is the one that incites racism and hate crimes, as if there's absolutely no evidence of you guys being intolerant towards people with opposing views. You're being sour and all of this talk about how Trump incites racism and hate crimes, as if there is absolutely no video evidence of you guys being intolerant towards people that have opposing views. But I do find it ironic that the same people that were giving me crap for criticizing Obama's illegitimate rule are now protesting, holding signs that say, "Not my president." And the same ones who acted like my secession efforts were just ridiculous are now advocating for it. They are simply upset because their authoritarian wasn't the one that got elected. They have no issues with the position itself of power in the presidency. In fact, they've been championing it for the last 8 years. And though most of their fear of Trump is just a bunch of dramatic pearl clutching, you can't help but laugh at the fact that this big government is blowing up in their face. Now, the ANCAPs like myself have been advocating for a complete abolition of the government, so by default, we support your secession efforts, and we agree when you say things like, "Not my president." But that's because we believe in a free society that's absent of a forceful rule. We believe that all exchanges between human beings should be voluntary. This is the opposite of what many of you believe. Cut the shit. You are the same authoritarian as Trump that wants to use the government's monopoly on use of force and violence to orchestrate society. But with that set up, this is exactly what you get. Now, because the voting didn't work out in your favor, the power that you were going to use to strong arm the rest of us is now in the hands of the last person you wanted. This is why so many people don't take y'all serious, and by being upset, protesting, and marching, you're just solidifying the stigma that you are nothing but a bunch of crybabies that are mad because you didn't get your way. Many of y'all think y'all woke, but y'all sleep as shit. If you were woke, you realize that this is the danger of the state, and you'd realize that as you campaign and buck dance for all of these politicians that want to expand the government, you're pushing for your own slavery. And this is why you're being laughed at. Maybe you should start acknowledging self-ownership and rule over yourself.